Good morning, everyone. Today, in this lecture, we will discuss kinetic and electrical properties of colloids and specifically of sols. So, in this series of lectures, we were discussing about the colloids, their classification, and then how do we prepare them, different methods for the preparation of colloids. Then we saw how we go for the purification of the sol, purification of the colloid that we prepared, and after the purification part. In the previous lecture, we started discussing the properties of colloids or sols. So, in the earlier lecture, we discussed optical properties of the sol, and today we will discuss kinetic and electrical properties of colloids or sols. Sols are the most common type of colloids, and that is why we are discussing these properties for them. However, we have seen so many other types of colloids as well, but the major category of colloid that is significant from the point of view of such studies is sol. And we know that what is sol. Sol is a colloid in which my dispersion medium is generally solid, or sorry, it could be solid, liquid, gas, but generally it is liquid. And sometimes it could be gas, but the dispersed phase, it is always solid. So for a solid dispersed phase, the colloid we get is a sol. So today we will see the kinetic and electrical properties of the sols. The first and very important property, kinetic property of colloid, it is about the motion. So it is the Brownian motion of the colloidal particles. When we are discussing the kinetic properties, we are mainly concerned with the motion of the colloidal particles, right? How do they move? That is the kinetic property. So the first property, kinetic property of sol is Brownian motion. So in the colloidal solution or sol, we have a dispersion phase, liquid or gas, and the dispersed phase is a solid particle. So these particles, they continuously move inside the dispersion medium, and while doing so, they follow a zigzag movement. Zigzag is what, like this. This is not a linear path, but they follow a zigzag path for the movement. And this type of motion, it occurs continuously and randomly. There is no predefined path for the motion of the colloidal particle. So they randomly move inside the dispersion medium, and they continuously make a movement of this zigzag-like path. So this is called as the Brownian motion. The Brownian motion arises due to the uneven distribution of the collisions between colloidal particles and the solvent molecule. Because these particles, the colloidal particles, they are having sufficiently large size, so they can move and they can collide with each other, and they can collide with the molecules of the dispersion medium or the solvent molecules. And when such collision occurs, what happens? They acquire certain kinetic energy, and the uneven distribution of the collision, it causes this random movement of the particle, continuous random movement of particle. If my particles are smaller, then what will happen? Then the Brownian motion will be fast. It will be more rapid for smaller particles, and it decreases with increasing the viscosity of the medium. So viscosity of the medium, if it increases, what will happen? Then they will face frictional forces, and then what will happen? The Brownian motion will slow down. So if my dispersion medium is having higher viscosity, then the particle motion would be a bit difficult, and in that case, the Brownian motion will be slower. So here in this diagram, you can see what is the actual reason of the Brownian motion. This is the colloidal particle, and it constantly collide with the solvent molecule. And in addition to the solvent molecule, it is also colliding with the other colloidal particles. So The Brownian motion is very important kinetic property of collides, and this you have also observed in the beam of sunlight. We discussed this example yesterday. In the beam of sunlight, you can see the Brownian motion of dust particles. They randomly move throughout the gaseous dispersion medium, and that Brownian motion you can observe in the beam of sunlight. Second very important property, kinetic property of collide that is related to the motion of the particle, it is the diffusion. Okay, what is diffusion? Diffusion is movement of particles, okay, from a region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. Where we have excess of colloidal particles, and if they are free to move to some other chamber, then what will happen? The particles will move from their higher concentration to the lower concentration. And what would be the driving force for such movement? It will be the concentration gradient. So under the influence of the concentration gradient, these colloidal particles, because they are able to move, they are already moving through the Brownian motion. So what will happen? They can move from the region of higher concentration to the lower concentration. And this phenomena is known as diffusion. This is a spontaneous phenomena. Okay, you need not to apply any force here. You need not to provide any energy. Diffusion is always spontaneous and it occurs by itself. The driving force is the concentration gradient. Whenever there is a difference in the concentration in the two parts of a same system, then diffusion will take place spontaneously. And the diffusion will occur until the concentration of the system is uniform throughout. This process will continue till we have the similar concentration on both sides. So, when the concentration, the number of the particle on both the sides, they become equal, the diffusion will stop, because now there will be an equilibrium that is set up between these two parts. So, diffusion is actually a direct result of the Brownian motion, because the colloidal particles, they are already moving. So whenever they get a chance, they will move to the concentration of they will move to the region of lower concentration, since they are already moving. So you need not to apply any force here. This is a direct consequence of the Brownian motion. Diffusion is very important property again, related to the motion of the colloidal particles. Here we have a Fick's law, which is used to describe the diffusion. So what is this Fick's law? The amount of dq of substance diffusing in time dt across a plane area A is directly proportional to the change of concentration dt with distance travelled. This is the Fick's law. So this Fick's law says what? The amount of substance that is diffusing in the time dt, it is directly proportional to the change in the concentration. So change in the concentration will be what? It is dc upon dx, okay, and with the distance travelled. So with the distance travelled, the change in the concentration is dc upon dx, and dq is the amount of substance that is diffusing in time dt. So this is my Fick's law. Here d is the diffusion coefficient, okay, that the coefficient or the constant that you use to put in an equation to remove the proportionality sign. So in this case, when we remove the proportionality sign, we put a diffusion coefficient here, and you can define it by taking all the quantities in unit. Okay, when you take unity of when all the quantities become unity, then you can define the diffusion coefficient. So how can we define it? The amount of the material diffused per unit time across a unit area when dc upon dx, that is the concentration gradient, is unity. So when my concentration gradient is unity and I'm taking the time as unity and the area is also unity, so what amount of material is going to be diffused? This will be my diffusion coefficient. The measured diffusion coefficient can be used to determine the radius of the particle or the molecular weight. So this property of collide is very important, and when you apply Fick's law, on this phenomena, then you can calculate the radius of the colloidal particle, and even you can calculate the molecular weight of the colloidal particle. So, where this law finds application? So colloids are generally, you can correlate the polymer solution with the colloid. Polymers exist in their solution in the form of colloids. Their particle size is actually of the colloidal range. And this law can be applied to calculate the radius of the polymer particle or the molecular weight of the polymer molecule. Similarly, all the macromolecules, they can behave like colloids, and their molecular weight and radius can be determined by using this law. So diffusion, it was again a very important property, very important kinetic property of colloids. Then in the third point, we have osmotic pressure. Now this property of the colloidal solutions, this is similar to the true solutions, right? The true solutions are also having this property of osmotic pressure, and this you have seen in case of ideal and non-ideal solution. These are the colligative properties, and they are characteristic of a true solution, or you can say the solution that contains non-volatile solute. So osmotic pressure is also used to characterize the colloids, and again we will use the Bonhoff equation here. This Bonhoff equation is equally true for the colloidal solutions as well. Like we have applied this equation in case of the true solutions, and similarly you can use this equation for colloidal solution also. Pi is equal to CRT, and it can be used to determine the molecular weight of the colloid in dilute solution. So this application you have already seen how we can use this equation to calculate the molecular weight. So you just replace this C. C is the concentration. You replace it by C upon M, where C is the gram of the solute per liter of the solution, and M is the molecular weight. So when you replace these quantities here, and when you perform an experiment to find out the osmotic pressure of a particular substance at a certain temperature, then by putting all these quantities in this equation, you can find out the value of M. That is, you can calculate the molecular weight of the substance. So this entire equation and the process, this can be used for the colloidal solutions as well, and you can calculate molecular weight of the colloidal particles. Here pi is the osmotic pressure, and R is the molar gas constant. So all the symbols, they have their usual meanings. Then at the fourth point, we have sedimentation, and sedimentation is also a property of colloidal solutions. And the velocity of the sedimentation, it is given by Stokes law. So what is sedimentation? Sedimentation is when the large size particles, they start settling at the bottom of the container. So this is the sedimentation part, and you can, when we destroy the colloidal solution, then the sedimentation begins. And sometimes it also takes place under the influence of gravity when you add any electrolyte. So this sedimentation, it is governed by the Stokes law, and according to the Stokes law, we have this equation where V is what the rate of the sedimentation. So according to the Stokes law, the rate of the sedimentation, it depends on what? It depends upon the D. D is what? D is the diameter of the particles. Then rho is the density of internal phase and external phase. So rho I is the density of the internal phase, and rho E will be the density of external phase into small g. Small g is the gravitational constant upon 18 eta. Eta is the viscosity of the medium. So this from this equation you can see that the sedimentation, or the rate of the sedimentation, it actually depends upon the density of the medium, the viscosity of the medium, diameters of the particle. So all these become very important factor when you are looking at the sedimentation of the particle. So this equation is actually derived from the Stokes law, and again you can apply this equation for calculating different important properties of the colloids. Like you can calculate the diameter of the particle from this equation. So if you somehow calculate the rate of the sedimentation and other these quantities are known to you, In that case, you can find out what is the diameter of the given particle. So again, this equation also finds its application in the determination of particle size for any colloidal solution. Last one is the viscosity, and again it is very important property. Viscosity is what it is the resistance to flow of a system under an applied stress. Viscosity, you can understand this viscosity that term like water is having lesser viscosity as compared to honey. Honey is more viscous. So when you pour a little amount of water on your table, it will flows down quickly. But when you pour a similar amount of honey on your table, it will take very long time to reach to the end of the table, right? So you can say the frictional forces or the resistance to flow, it is higher in case of the honey as compared to water. In among the water molecules, they are not hindering each other from the movement, so they flows down quickly. But in case of honey, the molecules are so closely attached that they are resisting the flow, or you can say there is a frictional force between the molecules of honey. So, from this example, we can understand what is viscosity. So, in case of the colloidal solution, this also plays a role because due to the presence of colloidal solutions, when you allow the colloid to flow on a certain surface, these particles they may experience a frictional force and they resist to flow. So, the viscosity is actually what it is, the force among the molecules of a liquid due to which it resists to flow. It don't want to flow. So the more viscous a liquid, the greater the applied force required to make it flow at a particular rate. You have to, in that case, you have to apply force on the liquid in order to move the particles and in order to overcome them from their internal resistance. So the viscosity of the colloidal dispersion, this is affected by the shape of the particles of the dispersed phase. So if the shape of the particles in the dispersed phase is generally my solid particle. So what is the particle shape in my colloidal solution that will determine the viscosity of the colloid. So in case of the spherocolloids, dispersions of low viscosity, we get dispersions of low viscosity. And in case of the linear particles, we get dispersions of high viscosity. Now you can understand this very easily when we have ball-like particles. They will roll over each other, and when they are present in some dispersion medium, the colloidal solution will have very less viscosity because the particles will roll over each other and they will easily move. But in case if we have linear particles in the colloidal solution, then during the flow of the colloid, these linear particles will get over each other very difficultly, and therefore they will produce more resistance towards the flow of the colloid, and therefore you will observe high viscosity in case of such dispersions. So the viscosity, again, the very important property of colloid, and it depends upon the particle shape of the colloidal fall. Moving towards the next type of property, that is the electrical properties of the salt. So why we are considering the electrical properties of a colloid? The very simple reason for this thing is our colloidal particles, they used to carry charge on their surface. So they must be having certain electrical properties. What do we mean by electrical properties? That is the when the particle is having charge, how will it behave under the influence of electric field? Or what are the inherent property, electrical property of the particle? So electrical properties of Sol are basically due to presence of the charge on particle surface in case of a colloidal solution. So like you can see here, this is the colloidal solution, and here we have either they can have a positive charge on their surface or they can have a negative charge on their surface. So the example is like if I talk about the ferric hydroxide salt. in case of ferric hydroxide salt, what happens? On the molecule of the ferric hydroxide, Fe3 plus ion, they get absorbed, and therefore a positive charge is present on the surface of the colloid. Now all the colloidal particles in that salt, they carry the same charge. So what will happen? They will repel each other. Like you can see here, this is the positive charge, and it is present on the particle because these small positively charged ions are absorbed over the surface. The example that I am giving you is ferric hydroxide salt. So you can imagine a ferric hydroxide particle at the center, and the Fe3 plus ion are absorbed on the surface of this particle. And since all the particles are having the positive charge, so they will repel each other. And when they will repel each other, they will give rise to the Brownian motion. They will, because they are repelling each other, they will never coalesce. They will never come together. That is why they will remain in the dispersion medium for a very long time. So this colloidal state of the sol will be maintained because these particles are repelling each other. The mutual forces of repulsion between the similarly charged particles prevent them from aggregating. Now the aggregation is not possible, and the settling under the action of gravity. So what happens if this charge was not present on the particle? Then what will happen? These particles will combine together, they will aggregate together, and when they will be aggregated, the larger size particle will be formed, and this will quickly settle down due to the influence of gravity. So how the colloids are preventing the process of settling? Because they are having the similar charge on all the particles, and these particles are repelling each other. So this gives stability to the salt. So in this diagram, you are seeing the absorption of the ion from dispersion medium gives charge to the salt particles, which do not settle on account of the mutual repulsion. So here you can see the salt particles, they are carrying the positive charge on their surface, and the dispersion medium is also containing some counter ions. Right? Whenever we have a positive charge, we will also have some negative charge in the solution. So these are the counter ions, and they may exist in the dispersion medium. So all the electrical properties of the salt, they are due to the presence of charge over the surface. Now let us discuss a very important property, that is development of electrical double layer. So what is a double layer? Like in this diagram, you can see we have the colloidal particle at the center, and on its surface there is adsorption of the positive charge. Okay, so suppose this is my ferric hydroxide salt particle having positive charge on its surface. Now what will happen? In the previous diagram we have seen, we also have counter ions present in the solution. So what will happen when the colloidal particles, they are having the positive charge on their surface? All the counter ions, those are the negative ions, they will come towards the colloidal particle, and they will make a layer around the colloidal particle. They will also be present around the colloidal particles, and that is due to the simple electrostatic forces of attraction. So at the center I have colloidal particle. It is having absorbed the positive ion on its surface, and that is why this will be a positive colloid. Okay, and all the counter ions present in the solution, they will form another layer around the colloidal particle. So up to this point, the layer is called Helmholtz double layer. So in the Helmholtz double layer, what are the different constituents? At the center, I have a colloidal particle. Around this colloidal particle, the positively charged ions, they are absorbed over the surface. So this is a fixed layer. Okay, this is a fixed layer because absorption has taken place. But over this layer, I have a movable layer because these ions are present in the dispersion medium. Okay, so since these counter ions are there in the dispersion medium, this is a movable layer, and this is a liquid medium in which the colloidal particle is present. So this is my Helmholtz double layer. But what happens when we have a positive charge on the colloidal surface and when the counter ions are surrounding it? So this will be the Helmholtz layer, but outside this layer, another layer could be formed. Now these negatively charged ion here, they will attract more positively charged ion. So a layer of positively charged ion, a positive charge will form a layer over it, and then the positive charges, they will attract the negative charges, and again another layer will be formed. So now this is called my electrical double layer. The colloidal particle is having two layers of charges, plus minus plus minus. So two layers are present, and this is called an electrical double layer. It was suggested by Stern. So we consider that the first layer on this electrically charged particle, the first layer is a compact layer because it is due to presence of these adsorbed ions, and the second layer is a diffused layer. So the diffuse layer is that is due to the ions present in the dispersion medium, and uh, the potential that exists in the diffuse layer, this is called the zeta potential, and this is my liquid medium. So the surface of the colloid particle, it acquires a positive charge by selective adsorption of a layer of positive ions around it. So here the example that I have taken is a positively charged colloid, right? But we also have negatively charged colloids. So in that case, what will happen? This first layer of charge will be of negatively charged ions, and over them we have a positive charge, and over that we will have a negative charge, and again we will have a positive charge. So in this case, we are taking only the positively charged colloid. So we are considering that there is the adsorption of the positive ions. This layer attracts the counter ions from the medium, which form a second layer of negative charges. The combination of the two layers of plus and minus charges around the Sol particle, it is called the Helmholtz double layer. So when I am considering only the first layer of positive and negative charge, this is my Helmholtz double layer. And when I am considering the two layers, then it is the electrical double layer. So the electrical double layer, it is a more recent observation, and it contains two layers actually, a compact layer of positive and negative charges which are fixed firmly on the particle surface. This layer is firm and we call it a fixed layer. And the second layer is a diffuse layer of counter ions or negative ions diffused into the medium containing positive ions. So the second layer is a diffuse layer, and this layer is present actually due to the diffusion of the counter ions present in the dispersion medium. So this combination of compact and diffuse layer, it is referred to as the Stern double layer. And because of the distribution of the charge around the particle, there is a difference in the potential between compact layer and the bulk of the solution. So that difference in the potential that arises due to accumulation of charges, this is called the electrokinetic or the zeta potential. So the formation of electrical double layer, it imparts so many characteristic property to a colloidal solution. First is the property of electrophoresis. What is electrophoresis? It is the most known electrokinetic phenomena. What is electrokinetic? When the movement is taking place, whenever the word kinetic comes, it means it is related to the movement, right? So, electrokinetic phenomena is when the movement is taking place in the electric field. So, we call it electrokinetic. So electrophoresis is very important electrokinetic phenomena, and it refers to the motion of the charged particles related to the fluid under the influence of an applied electric field. So the charged particles means our colloidal particles, they are having charge on their surface, so they will move. There is motion of the charged particle and related to the fluid, because my dispersion medium is not having any charge, so it will not move, only the colloidal particles will move. So under the influence of an applied field, so when you are applying a electric field here, this is plus, this is negative charge, we have applied electric field on this solution. So what will happen, the positively charged particles, they will move toward the negative electrode, and because in the rest of the dispersion medium we don't have any atom, so only the charged particles are moving in this process, and these positively charged particles, they will get attached to the negative electrode, so they will be accumulated on the oppositely charged electrode. This is the electrophoresis process. The second important property is the electroosmosis, and it is opposite in principle to that of the electrophoresis. When the electrodes are placed across a clay mass and a direct current is applied, water in the clay pore space is transported to the cathodically charged electrode by electroosmosis. So, uh, if you know what is osmosis, then you can easily understand the electroosmosis. So electroosmosis is just like osmosis, but here we have applied electric field. So it becomes electroosmosis. So we know that osmosis is the movement of the solvent molecule. In osmosis, what moves? Only the water moves, okay? The particles of solute or the colloidal particles, they are not moving at all. Osmosis is the movement of solvent molecules only. So when I am taking a colloidal solution, aqueous collide, and when we are applying the process of electroosmosis, there will be only the movement of solvent molecule. But in case of electrophoresis, we have seen that the colloidal particles were moving, right? So the electroosmosis is just opposite to the electrophoresis. In electrophoresis, the colloidal particle is moving. In electroosmosis, my solvent molecule is moving. So you can remember this by simple fact that in osmosis only solvent is moving. So in electroosmosis also solvent is moving. So electroosmotic transport of water through a clay is a result of diffuse double layer cations in the clay pores being attracted to the negatively charged electrode or cathode. So water molecules, they are moving through the clay pore space, and the clay pore space, it contains a diffuse double layer, and as these cations move towards the cathode, they are moving towards the cathode, they bring with them water molecules that clump around the cations as a consequence of the dipolar nature. So when these cations are moving, they have also water molecule attached over them. So they are also making the water molecule to move towards the cathode, and that is the due to the simple reason that they have a dipolar nature. So this is a simple setup of electroosmosis, and this is very similar to the osmosis process. Here you can see the original level of water. Water is moving inside, and here we have applied the electric field to electrodes are visible in this diagram. This is my semi-permeable membrane, and the sol is filled between these semi-permeable membrane. So we have water outside and sol inside. So when you have applied the electric field, the water molecules will start moving. So this is the process of electroosmosis, and it has found so many applications in different industries. Now moving towards the next phenomena, this is the donor membrane effect. What is donor membrane effect? This is also a consequence of the electric charges present on the colloidal surface. So the presence of charged macromolecules, that is the colloid, on one side of a semi-permeable membrane affect the diffusion of small ions such as drug ions through the semi-permeable membrane. So this here we have taken example of a biological system. This cell membrane is basically a semi-permeable membrane, and when the macromolecules are present in excess on one side of this membrane, they will affect the diffusion, simple diffusion of the smaller ions. So this effect is due to the electrical gradient across the membrane, and as a consequence, the charged drug ions of the same charge as the macromolecule, they are driven to the opposite side of the membrane, altering the concentration of the drug ion. This is termed as Donan membrane equilibrium or simply Donan effect. So this is the protein molecule, and here are my drug ions. So when on one side I have more these macromolecules, and they affect the accumulation of the drug particle inside, and that is simply due to the presence of electrical gradient across the membrane. So what happens? The charged drug ions, they are all having the same charge, uh, as the macromolecules, similar to the protein molecule, they are having the charge like positive ion or negative ion. So what happens due to maintain the electrical neutrality? What will happen? The charge ions, the drug ions, because they are having the same charge as the macromolecule, they are driven to the opposite side of the membrane. So what will happen? This is the donor membrane equilibrium. Let us discuss more about this phenomenon. So this is the Gibbs-Donan effect, and it is also known as Donan's effect, Donan law, or Donan equilibrium, or Gibbs-Donan equilibrium. And this is about what? About the behavior of the charged particle near a semi-permeable membrane. How the charged particles are behaving near when they are present near to a semi-permeable membrane, and that sometimes fail to distribute evenly across the two sides of the membrane. So ideally, what should happen? A semi-permeable membrane, it should allow the entry of the charged particles, and these charged particles, they should be evenly distributed on both the sides. But actually, what happens? Their distribution is uneven, and the reason is presence of a differently charged substance that is unstable to pass through the membrane, and therefore we have developed uneven electrical charge. So again, an example of a biological system is given here. A large anionic protein in the blood plasma are not permeable to the capillary walls. Capillary walls are, they are the blood vessels. So in our blood vessels, we have blood flowing through it, and this blood is having a large anionic protein. So obviously, this large size particle, this cannot cross the capillary wall, because the small cations are attracted but are not bound to the proteins. Small anions will cross the capillary walls away from the anionic proteins more readily than the small cations. So, due to the negative charge already present on the inside of the capillary wall, now the anions will move across the capillary wall more rapidly as compared to small cations. And why this will happen? Because these small cations, they are attracted to the negative charge of the protein, so they will not move that readily as compared to the negatively charged small anions. And the small anions, they will cross rapidly. So this will create an uneven distribution of a small cation and small anion across the capillary wall, and this is what the Donan equilibrium is. Some ionic species, they can cross the barrier while others cannot. The solutions may be gel or colloid as well as the solutions of electrolyte. And as such, the phase boundary between the gel or a gel and a liquid can also act as a selective barrier. So, by this uneven distribution of the electric charge across the membrane, there is development of electric potential arising between the two such solution, and we call it what? Donan potential. So whenever we have an uneven distribution of the charges, there will be the development of potential, and here it is called Donan potential. Donan potential is also known as the sedimentation potential. So it is the potential induced by the fall of a charged particle under the external force field, and is analogous to electrophoresis in the sense that a local electric field is induced as a result of the motion. So here motion of small ion is taking place, and what happens? There is a development of a local electric field. So the potential is known as the Donan potential or the sedimentation potential. If a colloidal suspension has a gradient of concentration such as is produced in the sedimentation or centrifugation, then a macroscopic electric field is generated by the charge imbalance appearing at the top and the bottom of the sample column. So, this is the sedimentation potential, and we can understand this process by looking at this diagram. So, donor membrane equilibrium, how it is set up, you can see here, this is the semi-permeable membrane, electric field is applied. Now, due to the presence of negatively charged colloidal particles, what happens here, excess negative charge is present here, and this is my semi-permeable membrane, and this is the excess for positive charge. So, when you apply electric field, what will happen? Under the influence of electric field, the colloidal suspension takes place after the sedimentation or centrifugation. So here the Donan membrane equilibrium, it finds its application on this part of the container. We have excess positive charge, can correlate these two diagrams. So on this part, we have on one side we have all the positive charges, and on one side we have all the negative charges. So when you apply the electric field, what will happen? These particles, they will generate an electric potential, and on this side the concentration is decreasing. So there is a development of a potential, and we call it sedimentation potential or a Donan potential. Then another type of property is the streaming potential, and that is again due to the movement of the charged particle. So it differs from the electroosmosis in that the potential is created by forcing a liquid to flow through a bed of plugged particles. So a bed of the particle is already present here, and when you allow your colloid to flow through it, this is the inlet and this is the outlet. In this manner, the colloidal solution is passing through over a bed of already plugged particles, and these particles may have certain charge. So, in that case, because the colloid is also having charge particles and they are also present on the bed, so what happens here? The potential developed is called the streaming potential. This is my sample material which is present here. This is the electrode, and the colloid is streaming through this channel. So this is the streaming channel. The direction of the fluid is this, and therefore the current flows in the opposite direction. This is the decrease of the electric field as the fluid is moving. So, like you can see, the direction of the liquid flow is this. So, when the liquid flows from inlet to outlet, when it flows like the electric field constantly increases. So, this is my streaming potential. So, that was about the kinetic and electrical properties of colloidal solutions. Now, I would like you to solve these two questions. The first question is you need to define the processes of electrophoresis, electroosmosis, Donan potential, and streaming potential. You need to define these four properties. So write down please the definition of these properties, and I would suggest to write all the definition by yourself. First go through the material and understand the concept, and then try to define these concepts by yourself, and then match your definition with the definition that is already present in the literature. The second question is, what is Stokes law? So during this lecture, at one point we discussed the Stokes law. So you need to find out what is Stokes law and what are its applications. So please write it down in your journal as well. So for today, that is all from my side. Thank you so much.